Speaking of getting rid of someone or someone leaving and not getting anything in return.
You working on it?
What?
Your transition game?
That wasn't bad, huh? That wasn't bad. That was savvy.
I quit that to like you trying to learn the parallel parking. You tap the rim a little bit, hit the curve. I got it in. I ain't hit the other car. I just popped the curve.
I hate parallel parking. We mentioned it on the podcast, actually, about the Steelers, moving up to get one of these elite receivers.
Correct.
And we said, hey, JuJu would probably have to be involved. And we're like, let's not worry about that. But yesterday, there was some tweets firing out that the Steelers were talking with the 49ers about one of their first-round picks, and JuJu would be involved. And then there's another report that comes out a little later saying these reports are just completely false, that this isn't going to happen. Now, I don't know what to ask here. Are we?
I think
because
I was going to clarify a little bit more too. So it started out like this, man. 49ers reached out to the Steelers about potentially acquiring JuJu in a trade. Steelers responded back from what we read in terms of what they were willing to offer. It would have been one of their first round picks, the 13th pick or the 31st pick. And then from there, reports came out that the Steelers weren't interested in trading JuJu. And we all know how that typically goes. We
mentioned to you is that whether there's smoke, there's fire.
Right. And I always laugh because you get these people that want to get on social media and act like they know everything. Man, this is a rumor. No one would believe this. Da da da. I'm like, all they simply said was there was a conversation. And that definitely, you didn't see anything leak about a TJ Watt conversation. You didn't see any James Conner conversation. There was no Big Ben conversation. So a conversation definitely happened. That's the only reason why that leaks like that, first off. But to act like this is so far-fetched, I mean, it was a time people didn't believe AB would be traded. Remember that? It's plenty of times when people don't think, oh, man, this guy would never get traded. This never would happen. If the deal is right, a deal will be made, regardless if it was with the Niners or anybody else. So I always laugh when people just try to act like they know everything. Like they're super plugged in.
Who leaks that? 49ers probably?
It could be a mix. 49ers, it could be somebody on the Steelers side that wanted to let people know that, hey, a conversation has been made about JuJu.
Don't be too shocked.
Right. Well, not in this sense, in the sense of this. Say I know the 49ers aren't going to give me their 13th round pick. Their 13th pick in the draft. But say it's a team that's sitting at like 19. And now they see, well, hey, man, the Niners reached out. Dang, but all right. Well, at least they had a conversation. All right, so you know what? Yeah, what's up, man? We got the 20th pick. How you feel about that? Now, if you're the Steelers, okay, I want the 13th pick. I can't get the 13th pick for JuJu, right? That's too high. They ain't gonna give it to me. 31st pick, man, that's too low. That's like a second rounder, basically. But now this dude called with the 20th pick. All right, you got my ear. Let's talk.
This receiver is available right now.
That's all I'm saying, man. So in that regard, that's why I always tell people, I'm like, I just find it funny because I feel like that's some of the up and coming media personnel. That's their way of kind of trying to pump their chest to make them feel like they know everything. Like, man, that's not happening, bro. You're crazy, man. That's all false. And if you're listening to it, you're tripping. You're crazy. It's like, no, bro, you don't understand. It's a lot that goes into these things. That could be the initial, let's get this on the radar, but the play is over here the whole time. But if we go right there right now, I don't have any leverage. If I go right here right now, I tip my hand to everybody out here. So it's like, nah, because also if I tip my hand to them, well, what about the person that's behind me that's picking at, a little bit later that want that pick right there? Well, now they know, okay, if they're looking at this guy, well, I got that guy for him. It's a lot that goes into it, and it's not as simple as what people try to make it. But of course, when you're trying to make yourself sound smarter than what you might be, that's the way they go about it. Man, that's a lot. Why are you crazy? That conversation ain't happening. Oh, that's false. Like, okay. It's funny. I didn't see any Cam Hayward rumors pop up either. Huh? I mean, who's doing this?
Well, the thing that we can say is, I mean, it would make sense just from an organizational standpoint. Obviously, we both love JuJu, and we would love to see him come back and bounce back. But there's no guarantees he's going to be here after next season, depending on how everything plays out with this season.
And more importantly, from a contract standpoint, because I think that's like the underlying thing. He has 1 year left on this deal.
And he's probably going to get double digits in free agency.
Yeah, and you have to think, man, for him, this is the whole debate when it comes to the contract situation. he's going to want to get paid number one receiver money. He's going to point to my stats. Look at what I did. If you're the organization, you're saying, I'm not paying you number one money. I want to pay you number two receiver money, because even though you have those numbers, when you had the opportunity to be a number one receiver, you didn't produce.
That's why this year's big.
Right. Then his argument is, well, look at my quarterback situation. Well, then their argument is, if you're number one receiver, it shouldn't matter. And that's going to be the whole pull in the ebb and flow of that negotiation. So if you're the organization, you feel like, hey, man, I might not be able to get this deal done. Kind of what we just talked about with the whole Patriots and Gronk situation. You want to leave empty-handed and hope for a comp pick? Or do you want to control the narrative and get ahead of this thing and get what you can get for him in terms of the most assets you can get for him?
Yeah. And that's the interesting thing, is he probably does have, I don't know if most value would be fair, but I mean, if you can get a first rounder for him right now,
that's huge.
Because, well, here's the thing. If you keep him and either way, it's going to be a tough scenario, because if he does go off, paying him that much money, think of how many other players we have on the defense that got to get paid.
I mean, because now we're talking about it'll be not next year, well, a year from now, but you're going to be looking at TJ, Minka,
Cam
get extension. How much? I got to see what Steven Nelson, how
He's
many
got
years
2
left
more
on
years.
his. Yeah, but because, they always want to do the negotiations while you got 1 year left on the deal. They never want to get to that last year of the deal. So there's a lot that goes into that, man. So
that's it. So what's the trade-off? Do you think someone could come in, one of these receivers in this deep receiver class can come in and replace Juju's production, and then you got him on a rookie deal for 4 years?
And then you're also, I think in that conversation, if you're the organization, you'll be banking on the fact that, hey, if we got Ben, that's going to help elevate the play of this young receiver. You also saw what Deontay Johnson did last year with those same quarterbacks. You have to expect his play to elevate, and you're hoping that James Washington can continue.
James Washington at over 700 yards. Yeah,
if he can continue to keep going in that direction. So that's the whole play of this thing. And I mean, that's just the nature of the business. That's how it goes, man. You're trying to maximize what you can get for these players. Now, I think for the longest time, especially this season, the whole debate was, is JuJu worth a first round pick or not? Because I think that's been the biggest coin flip. Some people think that he is worth a first round pick. Some people don't think he's worth a first round pick. Some people look at what Stephon Diggs got from Buffalo and they say, well, man, JuJu has to get that. But the argument that I always see is this, man. Diggs did it with Thielen on the other side. Thielen isn't AB, whereas JuJu's best seasons were with AB. So it's like, is JuJu that by himself, or is he a product of AB? And that was the difference. Whereas with Diggs ain't had to go out there and be a man. He done had his chance. He had a chance to prove himself, which is why he garnered what he garnered.
Yeah, and there's 32 teams. So there's probably something that JuJu would fit better in their system as a team, right? The way he does receivers. So maybe 49ers is one of those teams. I don't know what you could say to that, just in terms of JuJu's play style with the 49ers offensive system. If that's something like they're looking at, and how he kind of goes across the middle and he could run after the catch, and I don't know. But yeah, maybe there are like just a couple teams that value JuJu that way, and that's kind of all you need.
I mean, because with their offense, the 49ers in particular, we talk about that West Coast style offense, a lot of crossing routes and things like that. It does benefit guys that necessarily don't have the top flight speed to just blow by you or have elite level route running that gets them the ball early, 5-10 yards, and now they're able to make something happen after the catch. We all see that's JuJu's game. How often have we seen JuJu just flat out blow by somebody or just run a crazy route? No, his biggest plays are when he gets the ball early, makes a guy miss, and now he just takes off. Like, that's his game. So when you look at that, the 49ers, there is a fit there. And that's why you can see them valuing him where they value him. But like you said,
they lost Emmanuel Sanders.
Right. But and they do have Deebo Samuel coming back next year, and they still have George Kittle out there. They still got the running backs out there.
They're looking for that receiver too.
Yeah. So the thing though with them is, like, if you get up a 31st pick for JuJu, that's a great deal for you, the Niners, because you still got 13th pick. You can do whatever you want to do with that. And we talk about some of the receivers that are in this draft that are available. They're going to be available during that range.
Would we be happy then getting like Justin Jefferson at that point? I think T. Higgins.
Even a Jerry Jeudy might still be available in that 13 range. Like,
I don't know how that's happened, to be honest with you. He was
crazy.
He was the top receiver the whole year. Yeah. Now all of a sudden the other two dudes, Ruggs and Lamb, are ahead of him. I don't know how.
But even, like I said, all of that's right in that range, man. So you never know. And imagine if you're the Steelers, right? And you really
4 years on a rookie deal.
right. And if you're the Steelers and you're so hungry.
It makes
say you're the
sense.
Steelers and you're super hungry, right? To move up to get one of those guys and you got the 13th pick. Couldn't you package one of these other draft picks and move up a couple more spots if you really said, hey, you know what? I like Judy, but I want this guy right here. He's going to be at 10. I can move up 3 spots now. So all of those things factor into it. So that's why I was saying, man, when I saw them talking about the reports are completely false, I'm like, don't think it's completely false. Like, I mean, we're not saying that it's going to happen.
No,
but
it makes sense.
But to just act as if, oh man, this is so outlandish, is not. It makes a ton of sense
because the Steelers could just completely not do anything, and then we could draft a receiver in the second round, running back third round, something like that. Where all right, you have your receiver in the second round, that would be the 4th receiver coming into camp, and then you let JuJu walk next year, and hopefully that receiver steps up, and then you have Deontay probably as your number 1, James Washington,
and then you hope that you more than likely bank on getting a comp pick for the JuJu walking away, but that's a whole nother year later. I
mean, kind of what we've been doing all along the past 10 years with just receivers, Mike Wallace, Emmanuel Sanders, how they've been able to kind of rotate through them and still have elite play on the field. So I guess it's crazy because we love JuJu here, but then it's at the same time, it makes sense from an organizational standpoint.
And it all goes back to the business element of it, man. Like, I think there's a different conversation if JuJu still had a highly productive season last year. I think the conversation is they're going to pay him regardless. He's a priority. But I think because of the fact that was his audition to show that he was a number 1 receiver, regardless of the fact that he dealt with injuries, regardless of the fact that he had to deal with the carousel at quarterback, the numbers were the numbers and the impact wasn't felt the way it was. And then you still saw some of the negative parts of his game in terms of the drops, in terms of the ball security. You still would see some of that popping up. So that's all the things that when you're sitting down having these tough business conversations that they point to that gets brought up. And that's some of the reasons why the situation is what it is in terms of would they trade him or wouldn't they trade him? And going back to the Stephon Diggs thing, remember, he first said he wanted to get traded. Then he was like, I don't want to get traded. Then the Vikings was like, we're not trading him. He's good. And then what happens? Trade. And we see this.
I mean, we've heard it all offseason and season that Diggs was not going to get traded.
We see it all the time. So that's why I always laugh when people are like, man, it's never happening. You're crazy. This is false. Like, don't even give it time. I'm like, okay. So where there's smoke, there's usually fire.
Basically, what we're saying is this could be an interesting night, even though the Steelers aren't officially drafting right now.
Yeah, man, it definitely could be. and regardless of what happens tonight, if he doesn't get moved, just how the rest of this season plays out. In terms of, do they try to get a deal done with him before training camp? Because their policy. They don't negotiate during the season. And we saw with Bud how that backfired on them.
So this is why you're bringing up him trying to get paid as a top receiver, because I'm thinking in the back of my mind, all right, you're going to have a year to prove that. But right now, if they're going to do negotiations,
they're going to do it now.
Okay, I get what you're saying. And he's only had 1 season without AB, and it wasn't there.
So for them,
because he could have this year to actually prove that.
Right, but once you go through this season and you ball out,
that's what I mean. It's a tough scenario. Then this is what I said earlier for the Steelers
situation. For the Steelers, if JuJu balls out this year,
I guess we could tag him.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. Now you go back into that carousel of, all right, do we tag him? Do we not tag him? Do we franchise tag him or do we? Well, you can't transition tag anymore. So do you franchise tag him or no tag? Now, if we tag him, is he going to sign the tag right away? Or are we going to have to deal with that whole debacle of he doesn't want to be here, he does want to be here, he's not showing up for the offseason workouts, like what's going on? So that's the other element, the other side of that. So if you're the player, you want to get this deal done. If you're going to get signed, you want to get it signed before training camp. Because once the season starts, you're not getting negotiated. It's not going to have a negotiation with you. And then once the season's over, imagine if you're JuJu and you ball out and you prove that, hey, man, I'm a number 1 receiver. And they're like, we're not paying you right now. We're going to tag you. You lose out. Think about Bud Dupree. We talked about if Bud could have hit the market, he would have won. He would have got crazy money. We talked about what Hargrave got versus what Bud got on a tag. He would have got crazy money. But they control the narrative. They control his leverage right here. So they say, we'll just tag you. We're not worrying about paying you right now. So even though you're hot right now, you're not going to get that money. We're going to tag you. And then, hey, man, do it again. And now if you can't do it again, well, now you're losing on the free agency. And same with JuJu. It's like, hey, you can get your chance right now. All right, you balled out, cool. We'll tag you. Now, also, you factor in the fact Ben's a little bit older. Okay, how's the rest of the roster shape up? Okay, and now all of that plays into it. So now, say on his franchise tag year, JuJu doesn't have the same type of year, same type of productivity. All right, now you could go out there and see what you can get.
Yep.
That's the whole element of it, man.
Yep.
Good old business, baby.
Yep. A lot popping right now.
It is, man.
I'm excited for tonight.
That's